So I am actually from an entrepreneur background. So I am the founder and CEO of For Her Safety, a startup helping the women out there. So talking about entrepreneurship is great, and people, being successful, running their own businesses is something else. So welcoming our speaker, Dr. Susura Suresh sir, is an electronics engineer by profession. He has MS degree from Indian Institute of Technology, that is IIT Madras. Before joining the Institute for Higher Studies, he worked for a couple of years in multinational companies in the field of electronics, industrial automation systems, and automotive embedded systems, hardware, and software. His MS thesis involved the complete design, development, and testing of a portable handheld biomedical device. This led to an industrial-grade product, the technology being approved and taken over by an indigenous company working in the field of medical electronics. His area of research include medical electronic system design, analog signal processing, and digital signal processing as well. He traveled abroad to present his work at reputed international conferences. His research work was published by Springer and IEEE, that is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, conference proceedings.
Yes, sir.
After graduating from IIT Madras, he worked in the Institute's Department of Electrical Engineering, where he played a key role during the design and development of satellite systems along with the team. Over to you, sir.
Phone number. I think some people are unmuted. You may request them to mute themselves.
Sure, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Usaid, for the beautiful introduction. And I'm really honored to be here. Should I start? Share my screen and present?
Yes, sir. Sure, please.
Okay. Yes. So I have made a very, very small and simple presentation so that students are aware of what I'm speaking about. It's about interactive mentoring session with successful startup founders. So I'm Suresh, and thanks Osad for the beautiful introduction that you gave me. So apart from that, I also studied at IIM Calcutta. I did the executive program in business management, and then also worked at different places like Tata Motors, Siemens, etc. So overall, I have around 16 years of work experience in MNC startups, research, manufacturing, software. And currently, I'm the co-founder of Startoon Labs, which is a medical device startup based out of Hyderabad. We are a 4-year-old company now, and growing in the Indian markets, and soon we wish to scale with the international markets also. 16 years of work experience. So let me just talk about what a startup is. Startup is not just about any idea, as it usually happens in the colleges. We feel that we have a good idea, and then we think we will start a company. But startup is not just about having a good idea. Few of the things which you should keep in mind. May I request all to mute themselves, please? There's a lot of background sound coming here.
Okay, sir.
If you don't mind.
Sir, screen not yet shared, sir. I want
Hello?
Yes, sir. Sir, have you shared your screen, sir? Screen is not visible.
Okay, not great. Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay. Yeah. Is the slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My earlier slide was nothing. It was just about the topic. Okay. I hope you not missed it. Yes. So I was just the startup is not about an idea. As usually students think that once you have a good idea, you can start a company. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot more to that. So let me tell you some of the important aspects which need to be kept in mind before you design or develop any solution. One is most important aspect, which is usually missed by most entrepreneurs, is the market research. So even before kickstarting to make a proof of concept, as engineers, we always want to make products. Okay, but there are so many ways, so many reasons why a product might not be needed in a real world. So market research is very, very, very important. Let me tell you what market research is. This is basically about going into the field, inquiring what is the problem, and then understanding that once you build a solution for that, it has people will be ready to buy that. That's what is market research. So that's very, very important aspect, which is usually skipped by many entrepreneurs. Then what happens is, after 2 years of product building, design, and development, they do not see that there's a product market fit. Hence, what happens is the product just remains in the lab and it does not go into the market. Okay. Second important aspect is the team diversity. Let me talk about what is the team diversity. So it's not just about engineers being in a team. It should be a multidisciplinary team with engineers, business guys, finance, legal, compliance. There's so many other aspects to it: marketing, branding. So these are the things which you should have among your team members. Otherwise, it's not. It's very difficult. Just with engineers, it's very difficult to grow the company. Okay. Third important aspect is the funding. The funding is a very, very critical aspect, because it is not just about making a small POC or a proof of concept, but it's also about making a product walk through the entire manufacturing phase and then have the product in the market. It requires a lot of certifications from government, possibly in case it's a medical device or a satellite, or something which is very, very stringent. You need to get approvals from the government also. Hence, and all these require good funding to be in place. So making a POC is one thing which will work good in a lab, but the same product will not work out in the market. Hence, there's a lot of big journey has to be covered before you take the product from your lab into the market, where funding plays a very, very crucial role. Once you have the product, marketing, branding, and sales activities are also very, very important. Otherwise, we'll not be able to sell the product. And there are different strategic ways of marketing to ensure that it reaches the right customers, the target customers, as we say. So that requires strategic thinking, strategic ways of implementation, a good team in place, and also rigorous activities to ensure that people know your product before they buy it. Okay? And finally, the business management and finance is very, very important, because it's all about a team. It's all about understanding about the business. It's all about growth. And finance plays a very, very important role, because it's all about management of the funds that come into the company, which ensure that the product can be taken out to the market. So these are some of the important aspects which need to be kept in mind. And it's not about just the idea that you have overnight and then you say, let us build this and make the product. Because after you invest 2-3 years of time in building the product, there may not be a single customer who wants to buy the product. Then the entire, though I'll not say the journey has gone in vain, but obviously the entire idea of building a startup and making a successful product launch is not achieved. You'll get a lot of other experiences, a lot of other learnings, but the end goal of making a product is, it's not satisfied. So this is one thing which I wanted to tell, it's about a startup and the homework that has to be done before you do that. And the advantages, I was speaking to Professor Elias in the morning. He said, please tell the students what are the advantages of working in startups. So working in startups has lots of advantages as compared to working in very, very big companies, especially with respect to wide exposure with lots of learning. For example, if you join a startup as a software engineer, then you may have the chance to work on different technologies like Android development, web development, front end, back end, the cloud-based networks. So a lot of things. As a single software engineer, you will be able to do a lot of stuff. Whereas if you get into a big company in the early days, you will get a very small piece of work, and the learning might not be so much and huge as compared to startup. This is definitely an advantage. However, it comes with some risks based on the financial condition of the startup. The risk of not getting your stipend on time or salary on time. Some risks may be there, but if the startup is well organized with founders, well experienced, with the funding and all in place, you should not have such problems also. So this is a very big advantage of working in a startup. If learning is of utmost importance to you, I think you should definitely join a startup rather than getting into some big company. And then once you lead a small team or once you are responsible for some work, there's a lot of respect for that person in the company. Okay, and you're also accountable. you're answerable to the management, and once accountability comes on your head, responsibility is also is a consequence. So in this way you become a responsible person, you become a responsible employee, and that also helps you walk in your career in a much in a confident manner. So these are some of the aspects of working in startups, and the culture in a startup is also not as stringent as in a MNC or in a big company. Friendly culture is there. You have the chance to meet the founders. You have the chance to understand their vision. You also have the chance to talk to other colleagues from different departments, and all these things are not possible in MNCs. So these are some of the advantages I feel I felt that I should share with you. And internship and all, it's not about the stipend. Most of the people come to Startoon Labs, sometimes just because of the stipend and all. So it's not about a stipend. If learning is your utmost priority, then I think you should get into a startup. If stipend and little work, less learning, and then you'll get some stipend, which might be your priority at that particular period in your life. So I'm not telling this is good, that is good. It depends upon what you need. If you're hungry for knowledge, join startups. If you're not hungry for knowledge, if you're okay with any joining any brand and have some brands associated with your name, then I think it's good to join big companies. It's all your choice at the end of the day. I was also asked to speak about some of the government schemes that might help startups. So one of the important government schemes, which even our company has availed earlier, is the BIG grant, which is from Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. So especially if you want to start up in the field of medical devices or pharmacy or other healthcare related startups, if you want to establish, then BIG is one grant which you can apply. Though it is a very very tough and a long, it takes a long time to get that grant. But if your idea is very good, if you see if your product has market potential, and if you have some what we call as a letter of interest, where you already speak to certain customers and get their idea as to whether they want to buy your product or not. So once you have all these things and the business aspects also in place, you can apply for a grant called as a BIG. So biotechnology ignition grant. So it's up to 50 lakhs that they give to individuals as well as to startup companies. So it depends upon whether you are a established startup or whether you are an individual innovator. It's applicable for both. But the idea, the team, the market potential, everything is the same, whether it's an individual or whether it's a startup. Then we also have something called as the PRISM Prism grant, which is from Department of Science and Technology. It's a small grant. It varies from 2 lakhs to 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs based on the stage in which your project is there. So there are lots of other grants. Then there's something called as a Nidhi Prayas grant, which comes for around, I think, 10 lakh rupees. So students can also avail a Nidhi Prayas grant. And then there are lots of incubators like the T Hub, V Hub, where also some state and government funding comes. So it's difficult to get from these incubators, but if you are associated with any of these incubators, it adds immense value, because it's not about just funding, but it's also about the support from the mentors. It's also about the ecosystem that is there, also about the manufacturing, access to manufacturing facilities or certification that they give. And then it's also about access to marketing and branding activities from these incubators. So there are lots of such incubators in the country now, and if you are a part of such incubators, then you have greater access to market, funding, mentors, certification, manufacturing. Different incubators have different strengths, so you can choose an incubator and operate under that incubator. So rather than doing it individually, it might help you in some manner in the days to come.
If you are admin, no problem.
So one of the important aspects which I also wanted to discuss is, are you ready to start up? Because I spoke to Professor Elias. He said that some of the students at Southern College are also interested in entrepreneurship. So I thought I should put some points here which are clues for you to think upon. And then these are the points on which you can think upon. And if you feel you are good with these This is just a what should I say? This is just a pointer to help you understand. It's not a hard and fast rule. You can always take your call when you want to start, how you want to start. But some important points I wanted to mention here. So most importantly is the market research done. So even before you build anything on a breadboard, if you're an electronics engineer or whatever, or even if you build some piece of software, you should actually understand whether there is a market for that. So that means you need to get into the field. Suppose you are a medical device company, you need to go to hospitals, you need to go to clinics, you need to talk to doctors, and then validate your idea. If they say, hey, this is a good idea, you should build it, then it's worth. And then how many users are you talking to? Are you talking to 10 users, 50 users, 100 users? Very, very, very important. The more number of users, the more confidence you get that yes, now it is worth. I have spoken to customers because these are the people who will buy the product after we build a solution. Okay, so in that case, once you know that there are users for your product, it is worth building. Otherwise, it's wastage of time, money, effort, and a lot of other aspects. Second important aspect is to be an entrepreneur, you should have a good passion and also a dedication to stay long. So if you feel I will make a product and maybe within 2 years I'll sell it off, I'll sell the product to somebody else or I'll start selling, then I think that's not the right way. Because product development takes a lot of time, and especially if it is coming to medical devices or any other device like a space or a satellite or a rocket-based company you want to start, there are lots of regulations for that. So to do those, to pass those regulations, it takes a lot of time. Okay, so it's not about just making a proof of concept, which we call as a POC. It's about making a product, and there's a lot of difference between making a proof of concept and making a product that is ready to be sold in the market. So second point is very, very important. Please make a note of that. That's the attitude that you should have and the confidence that you should have in your life, saying that, hey, whatever happens, I will go through this journey. Then only get into that. Okay. The third one, very important, is do you have good knowledge in the field? For example, I am an electronics engineer. If I say I want to do something in agriculture, then I don't think I'm the right person there, because I don't have knowledge of agriculture. I don't have knowledge of farming, right? So in that way, if you start a venture, you should ensure that you have sufficient knowledge and experience and exposure in that particular field. Otherwise, it's better not to do, because it's not worth. Whatever the product that you build will not have the capability that it should have because of lack of knowledge of the founders. So founders should be technically very, very strong if it's a product company. Okay, that's the minimal thing. I'm not telling if the founder is technically strong, he's a good entrepreneur. I'm telling it's a mandate that you should have good knowledge in the field in which you want to start up. Okay. Fourth is very, very important. It may even shock you. Have you secured the funding for at least 3 years? Because building a product, taking it to market, doing the related certifications, it takes at least 3 to 4 years, depending upon the sector in which you are. You have founded your company. Okay, so you cannot say that I have funds for, if you're a student who you're just graduating. If you say you have some 5 lakhs in your pocket, you should not say that I am starting off, because those 5 lakhs will be burnt in no time. Maybe in a few months you will burn those 5 lakhs. Okay, so what next? After that, who will fund you? It's something which students usually don't think about, where they get some little bit of funding, 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees from their from their institutions, and they start doing. But the long-term thing should actually be taken care of, and all these things are not very difficult. If you have the point number 1 done, the market research and the number of users are ready to buy, you have the knowledge, you have the passion to stay long, then obviously investors will find good interest in you. That's important. But if you feel that you have not done all these aspects, you're not good in that, you don't have money also, then I think it's very, very difficult. So please don't get into entrepreneurship without some of these basic questions being very, very well answered with yourself. Okay. Do you have a concrete plan for sales? Suppose you have built the product. Okay, how do you sell it? Selling a product is very, very difficult. And entrepreneurship is not about just passing 2 3 years of time, with some learning, but it's all about building a solution which can be deployed in the market, and then you make revenues. We call it a sustainable business. So very, very difficult to do sustainable business, even to kickstart sustainable business. So you should also have a good plan of, how do you sell that product? You have built it, but how do you sell? Do you have channels? We call them as channels. How do you establish the channel where the manufactured product from your company goes into the customer's house, or customers, whatever, the hospital or whatever, whoever is a customer. So you should have this channel well established. Do you have the distributors in place? Do you have the retail market in place? Do you have good people who can mentor you for sales, who will drive sales? So sales is very, very, very important. Without that, it doesn't make any sense. And then the knowledge of regulatory compliances, especially for medical, healthcare, and space and all. You have good regulatory compliances. So the product has to be very, very safe. Otherwise, it cannot be used by the customer. Hence, government has put some regulatory aspects to it, and the product has to satisfy them before the product is deployed. So you should have good knowledge of that also. Do you have any legal and financial advisors with you, maybe in your family, or in your incubation center, or in your college, wherever? It depends on what kind of team you're building. Legal and financial advisors are also very, very important, especially when you're building a private limited company. There are lots of filings that you need to do on a regular basis. Filings with the MCA, we call, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So it's, see, overall, then it's not just a startup means, you build something and, a small team of 4 5 engineers getting. It's not as simple as that. Hence, I told in the first slide, it's not just about idea. These are the things which a young entrepreneur who is just walking out of the college never thinks about. And hence, I thought I should talk about these things so that you put them in your mind, and you might not take the wrong step. So a team should not only be engineers. This is another big problem with engineering colleges, where the team of entrepreneurs, maybe 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, whatever it is, decided to start off. All are engineers with no experience in finance, no experience in marketing, no experience in sales, no experience of regulatory knowledge, and funding is another big doubt. So with this kind of team, you'll not be successful most of the times. So team building is also a very, very, very important aspect, and the team should have all these points that I have told you, which is actually very difficult. Also, it's not possible for a young student like you right now to graduate out of the college and have a lawyer on the board, or have a businessman on your board. Okay, or have a very, very experienced 10 15 years old salesperson in your team. Very, very difficult. So these are the points which you should think about. I'm not telling that without these you cannot start. You can always start, but the thing is, all these things will come in due course of time, and you have to be very, very prepared. So the better it is if you are prepared. You have thought of all these aspects even before starting to make a POC. Okay, the proof of concept. And experience, the last point, experience team members with proven business in the past. Having all these people in the team matters a lot. Okay, so take a snapshot of this, because this might help you answer some of the questions which you might have never thought of, and I
Okay.
feel this is very, very, very important. Okay,
Okay. Okay. Right.
so yeah, I think I could hear Vikram Bhaiya. Am I right? My thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vikram sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's all from my side from the entrepreneurship front, and I'm just half an hour done. So I wanted to keep some time, so that I wanted to interact with students rather than me talking everything which might not be in sync with your thought process. Hence, I am stopping to share my screen right now, and please feel free to turn on your video and communicate to me. Thank you so much. Hello.
Yes, sir, we are here. Vasaid, are you there?
Yes, sir. Uh, yes, sir. Actually, I'm also incubated at Adventure Park. So it's India's first and finest student-focused startup incubator. So we get to learn a lot there. And listening to your presentation, it actually refreshed all those important topics that we have. I actually
Yeah.
wanted to know more about Startoon Labs, as I'm being from the electronics background. So it intrigued me a lot checking your website. So can you please, share your experience about how you started, and how was your progress, and now you've been, reached at that point.
Yeah, good, good. Yes. See, it was good. Basically, Startoon Labs was incorporated in November 2017. And it was great. We also did good market research. We spoke to a lot of doctors. We went to hospitals, and we ensured that what we build has market potential. And that's how. So whatever I shared with you right now was from the experience and from the work that we did. It was not a theoretical gyan. So we did that, and it has helped us a lot. It has really helped. And most of the times, what happens? See, initially when we went to the market, when we spoke to doctors, okay, we were having certain features in our mind. Ours is a hardware product, a tangible product. So, which has electronics in it, which has algorithms in it, with a lot of computations and a lot of stuff in that, and manufacturing aspects are there. So, when we go and speak to the users, let me tell you the most important value addition there. Suppose I think I'll put 10 features into my product. Okay, I'll put 10 features into my product, and when we speak to the doctors, they say, hey, we don't need these 10 features, we just need 3 features of the entire set of this thing. So in which case, may I please request others to mute? So yes. So the thing is, yeah, I was telling, if you go to a user and you have design, you have thought of using 10 features in the product, which will take maybe 2 years of your time to develop. But once you talk to users, they say, I need only 3 features. It's good for you because development takes lesser time. Maybe instead of 2 years, now you're able to do it in maybe 13, 14 months, which is great. At the same time, you're also building something which is exactly needed by the end user. So that is very, very important. Please don't skip that. I don't know how many audience are here, but any entrepreneurs, upcoming entrepreneurs, very, very, very important to get user feedback. It helps you. So if you plan for 2 years, but if the user says, majority of the users telling, hey, I don't need so many features. Just 3 features are good for me to kickstart the work. Great. I think as an entrepreneur, you should be very happy because it takes lesser time, lesser money, lesser effort, and the go-to market to for your company is very, very faster. So that was one thing which we did well, I will say, which worked well. And then a lot of other experiences happened. One more important thing I should tell you right now. See, when you build a team, okay, in the beginning, it's only about the core team. Okay, maybe in your case or whoever, as an engineer, it's about the product. So you should be having good idea about the product. That is very, very important. But as and when time passes, you will come to know that you need to add members in your team. Okay, very, very important. And those members can also join you only after a particular stage. For example, let me tell you my story. Uh, as I mentioned in my slide, okay, you need to have a finance person in your team. Okay, but as a fresh graduate, you might not. Maybe those finance people are not interested in joining you because they'll say, hey, your startup is very, very small now. There's not much finances coming and going, incoming and outgoing. You don't need so many. They might tell like that, but don't leave such people. If you feel, you find a person with a who is a chartered accountant or a person who is a MBA with finance, keep good touch with them. Be in touch with them. Try to build a rapport so that as and when your company grows, finance becomes a very, very important aspect, and then you can approach them again. Hey, do you want to be a partner in my company, or do you want to please be an advisor to us? Because let me tell you, friends, one important aspect you may be also knowing, like there are two reasons where a company can fail. One is when the solution itself is not good, And second important aspect is when the financial aspects of the company are not good. So these are the two reasons why a company fails usually. Otherwise, I don't, from my experience, I don't see any more reasons why a company should fail. Either it's a solution failure or not a market acceptance. But market acceptance, no, you can actually filter by doing good market research. Okay, so there's no doubt that my product will be accepted by people or not. Hence, you have to reject that. You have to eliminate that. But if the product, as an engineer, you're not building a product well, or if the finances and the compliances of the company are not adhered to, especially in private limited, very difficult. So you need to file, you need to file regularly every year. Every month you have GST filings, you have TDS filings, then you have to report to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs every time in September sometime, where you have to say what is your funding status, what is your sales, what's your team, how many new directors you added to your company, so many things. It's a hell lot of processes there. Okay, so please ensure that you have people coming. So team building process, what I wanted to focus here was, which is important for you. On day zero, you can only have 2-3 engineers in your team, but don't think that is the team who will make the company big. Keep yourself open, and it's also from my own experience of Stardoon Labs, I'm telling. So one was the market research, then this. So whatever points I told you, whatever points I've told you, has been implemented here. And our company being a medical device company, we have some regulatory compliances to be adhered to, which I was focusing very much during my talk. The regulatory is basically you have to ensure that the product is good, product is performing the way it is. It has to undergo some testing standards as per international constraints. There are constraints from international certification process. So you need to get well versed with that. Ensure the product compliance happens. You need to, especially if it's a medical device company, you need to do some clinical studies in the hospital. So all these things have to be planned for, have to be budgeted even before you start or get into a product. If it's just a commercial product, for example, I made something very simple. For example, I made a pen, whatever. So there's not much compliance for that. I'm just giving an example. Even a pen might have some compliances with respect to shape and sharpness and all. I don't know, but I'm just telling that if it's a simple product which is not directly impacting human safety, then I think it's okay. Otherwise, you have to undergo lots of regulatory compliances as per the government. So this is something which also has to be considered, which we have thought of. Yeah, I think these are things which have come to my mind. If you have any specific experiences you want to learn from me, then I'm open.
Yes, sir. So actually, mine also being as a product company. So me just being in my second year when I started with my startup. So I had difficulty in making a product. So I had some specific ideas as to what to do, but I did not know the flow of commands, as to how the product should be built. So I wanted to know from you, how did you build your product, from the ideation stage to the final commercial product? So now going from different iterations to planning out, I'm 100% sure there were many hundred different architectures in the process as well. Then coming up with the prototype, and then coming up with the MVP, that is a minimal viable product, and then launching into the market. So what is the journey? I mean, how should one student or someone who wanted to start to build a product should think in the direction, what should be the flow chart of building a product?
Yeah, good question. See, I think the answer has already been discussed. You should be technically sound. Okay, as I told earlier, as you said, you started in second year. So in second year, you may not have the sufficient holistic knowledge of the product. Okay, in which case, what happens is most of the people, it happens. It's quite common. If you don't have the know-how of what you are building, then obviously you'll build something which is not proper. And then what will happen? One more iteration will come. Again, one more iteration. Again, you can always think, hey, I could have avoided that. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges and one of the important prerequisites is you should have a know-how. Now, whether you start in a second year, third year, fourth year, or maybe 10 years after your career, doesn't matter. Okay. Before starting, you should know what you're building, why you're building. And then how to build will be a follow-up. It will be a consequence because you have sufficient knowledge of that technology. Now, as you mentioned, there may be hundreds different kinds of architectures. I think that also follows from your understanding of the subject. So if you ask me what is the most important aspect to that, I will say knowledge of the subject, or the subject knowledge, as you say. Okay, that is important. And I also mentioned in my talk earlier, like the field that you choose should also be with what you're learning. Like I, being an electronics engineer, might not be very good in building understanding the agricultural aspects and then building a product. Then obviously what will happen? I'll build something. So there are two things. One is lack of knowledge. Second is lack of exposure to that particular field. So if these two things you consider well, then your number of iterations from proof of concept or a minimum viable product, as you were mentioning, the number of iterations from that to a market ready product will be much lesser. So instead of maybe 10 iterations, you will be finishing it in 3 iterations. Okay, this is very important, and this will, with this you can save time, you can save money, and you can build a product faster to get into the market. Now suppose we have a young student, maybe a second year student, who is very passionate, who has some fabulous idea in the mind. Okay, and you don't know how to build, as you mentioned. There are some gaps there. So try identifying a good mentor, try identifying a person who has built products, who knows the pathway of getting from MVP to a market ready product, who has undergone the regulations for the product. Okay, so try having mentors or advisors. And advisors, nowadays you'll find a lot of mentors and advisors. Most of the times the advice doesn't work for you. It might have worked for them, but it might have not worked. It might not work out for you. Okay, so try getting some good people who are thinking about your company, who are thinking about your product, who can think about your success, and build a long-term relationship with them. So I think that kind of mentorship is very important. So I think that also answers your question, because in that way you are actually taking a step from point A to point B. But that advisor who has been in the industry for 20 years, who has built 10 products, will say, hey, Osad, don't go from point A to point B. Rather, you can actually jump from point A to point C in the product development, where you have saved, maybe 6 months of effort, and you have saved few lakhs of rupees. Okay, that you will never get without an advisor, for sure. So these are some aspects: good knowledge, good knowledge of the market for which you're building the product. Basically, the user and the feedback will help you. And then obviously having good mentors who have done the work that you wanted to do. I think these things will help you take your journey faster.
Thank you, sir. That was actually very informative, and I'm sure I'll be able to find someone who will help me in my journey. So yeah, another question is like, many students think like no matter what engineering you take, software is the only path. I mean, for something like, maybe even building a company or even working for an MNC, right? So nowadays, IoT is, booming. So there are many international markets who have already, started, utilizing or being a part of the pie. That is the IoT that is growing. So what are your views on, takes on IoT in, India, or maybe specifically in the southern region? Like, what are the scopes in the IoT field that, students should pursue instead of just jumping in for software companies?
Yeah, I think the product development ecosystem in the country is now becoming better. That's the first thing. There's so many companies in Hyderabad itself. You see so many companies, right? A lot of my friends are here in Hyderabad, Bangalore, who have started off and who are all 4 years, 5 years old in this business, and things are going on well. I feel the manufacturing sector of the country is also improving. So I see good scope from the manufacturing front in the country, indigenous manufacturing. So earlier, maybe a decade back, we didn't have certain machines in the country. Now we have good capacity. You want to build a 6-layered PCB, even a 32-layered PCB, you have certain facilities in the country who can do that. PCB is basically a printed circuit board for those engineers who are not from electronics background. So you can do that here now. So indigenous manufacturing is picking up. That's a good sign, first thing. Second thing is coming to IoT. IoT is more like a buzzword, okay? And IoT, AI, ML, all these are buzzwords. Don't go beyond all, behind all those things. All that matters is the knowledge that you have. Okay, see, AI, ML, what is that? They're just keywords, which have recently come up. It's all mathematics at the end of the day. It's all about probability. It's all about statistics. It's basic mathematics. Now they are putting words to that and creating they're saying that it's a field. It's not a field actually. It's an application. Okay, so don't be carried away by these buzzwords like IoT, machine learning, AI, ML. All these things don't matter much. Okay, what matters is how good you are in your core subject. So when you talk, since you have raised the topic of IoT, let me tell you, IoT involves a lot of hardware. Okay, a lot of system designing aspects, a lot of software also. We call as the firmware, which goes onto the hardware. The code that gets into the hardware. So getting these concepts well, okay, knowing the C language really well, knowing the basic components of hardware, the op-amps, transistors, diodes, resistors, capacitors, inductors, ICs, power supplies, so many things. Okay, engineers should know these things really well, and then once they are good in that, they will have the confidence to get into core. So IoT, when you say, it's more of a core job. And then if you say a software job, it's for an electronics engineer, a software job is a non-core job, right? If you're doing a website development after studying electronics, then it's a non-core for you. Though you can say it's technology, but it's a simple piece of technology. Whereas a computer science student doing those kinds of things matters to him. For him, it's a core job. It's not about a core or a non-core. So if you say people are getting into software, nothing wrong in it. If they're interested in building good software, I think they should go for that, irrespective of their branch. I have seen people from IIT Madras who are from civil engineering, mechanical engineering, writing beautiful piece of code. So nothing wrong in that, right? Nothing wrong in that. However, if you feel you are good in your concepts, and if you feel you can contribute to indigenous design development, I think you should get into core field, which is in which you have done your engineering. And IoT, if you say, I feel it's more of hardware, it's more of electronics, it's more of hardcore writing code in C language. If you feel you're good in all these things, don't compromise your career by getting into web development or a Java based development. I think that's my sincere suggestion. So nothing is good, nothing is big, nothing is small. It all depends upon what you are good at the end of the day, and pursuing that with passion. I think that matters a lot, and you will succeed in that. If you're passionate about some technology and if you want to work in that, maybe initially your paycheck will not be that, but later on, once you become good in that field, it will be good. So the IoT has good scope in our country. Yes, Usad.
Oh, thank you, sir. It cleared a lot of maybe some misconceptions in my mind as well. So yeah, IoT is just not mean just doing hardware or software. Does not mean just going into that. So yeah, it's a mix of maybe both.
Yes.
So sir, you were stressing more about getting your core knowledge and the core subject. You should know your subject well, and that is how a person will be able to find what he is good at, right? So what were your study patterns, maybe which maybe help our students follow it? Like, how can we know, or how can we study more about the core subjects? So today we usually Google stuff. Like if we get to know some word which we don't understand, so we basically just Google it, or find or look some YouTube videos on it. So I mean,
Hello.
And maybe you can maybe guide us with some tips and tricks studying, or how to get knowledge about our core subjects. I mean,
that's a good question. Also, thanks for asking. See, there are no tips and tricks. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, there are no tricks. Everything is well established, and there's no shortcut. Nowadays, students believe in shortcuts. As you rightly mentioned, people Google, and you yourself mentioned that's not the way. So I think people know that what they're doing is not entirely correct. Okay, people also know, the students also know that they're doing a quick jugaad and they're not going on the path of serious learning. Okay, and you have asked me a question. You also told me testimony to the, to the fact that it is not right. You're right in that regard, and I really appreciate that. So let me answer you how it works. Rather, I would also like Vikram Bhaiya to talk here once, if he is also okay with that. But let me tell, because he has good experience too. So let me tell what really works. See, it's so many engineers come to us. More than 40, 45 interns have worked with us in Statoon Labs in the last 4 years, and many people have done really, really well. Maybe 35, 38 people have done really well, except for 2, 3 people who are not able to cope up with technology. Okay, but most important aspect when we interview. So let me tell you, suppose some students in this webinar want to get into a core startup. Let me tell you how it works basically. We ask very, very basic stuff. For example, how does a capacitor work? Or how does an inductor work? Okay, or how does a diode work? Even these questions remain unanswered for me, unfortunately. This is very, very sad, but this is the reality. And one of the reasons why this is happening is because of Google search. They're not studying a textbook the way it has to be studied. That's all. So if you ask me, sir, what is the tip and the trick? There's no tips or no tricks. You need to study nice, good, standard textbooks that are followed in the world very, very, very seriously. Understand in and out of that. If you can ask me, I know as a mentor, I can suggest some good books to you and your professors and whatever, if you want to take things forward in that way. But those books should be taught. And if they're not taught, then obviously, few things here and there will happen. Or else, if the students are going to the library, ask the librarian for those books. Study those concepts really well. That is the first thing, okay? You can take it as a first step. You cannot escape studying a book, first thing. Second thing is, suppose you studied about an op-amp, okay, an operational amplifier. Now, there are around 25, 30 applications of an analog component like this op-amp, okay? You should go to your lab, ask your professor, hey, give me access to this lab. I want to build a small amplifier, or I want to build a small filter. Understand its response. Okay, you do a hands-on. Hold a soldering gun in your hand. I'm talking of an electronics engineer. You can actually map it to other departments as different instruments are different for them. If you're computer science, you should sit on a computer. If you're a mechanical engineer, you should have a screwdriver or a hammer in your hand. The tool, basically, I'm telling, the right tool. So as an electronics engineer, I'm giving an example of electronics, okay? So you should go to your lab, build something hands-on, okay? It may be a small circuit, it may be just a non-inverting amplifier, but there is a hell lot of stuff in a non-inverting amplifier. You can see its response, you can see its frequency response. If you have designed a filter, if you have a coupling capacitor, the input, coupling capacitor output, they work differently. The design component is different. So just in a small amplifier, you have 4 or 5 components which are not understood by students. So if you ask me, sir, how do you do? So first thing is read the book, study the op-amp, study the individual discrete components in and out, okay? And then put those components on a small breadboard in your lab. Power it up, see what happens. If you power it up wrongly, there'll be an explosion, boom. Okay, okay. So all these things happen, but this is what is actually needed before you get into any company. Otherwise, you don't even know, theoretical stuff. You have never touched a soldering gun. You have never put components on a breadboard. You have never analyzed signals on a CRO, on a cathode ray oscilloscope or a DSO, digital storage oscilloscope. People don't even know how to use a multimeter. Pathetic. So without all these things, if a student graduates, how can you say they are a fit, in a company? They are not a fit in any company. Okay, and especially in a startup, you need to have in and out of knowledge in whatever you're doing. Okay, so these things are very, very important. Hands-on. If you ask me in one word, what is the solution to this problem? Hands-on. Don't do Google search. Open a good textbook. Read that complete paragraph and see whether the component is behaving the same way as it is mentioned in a textbook. If you do that, I think that's the best way to do it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. So yeah, Google may be good for temporary thing, but I think it's ruining the way we study, because I usually do Google, because if like, array, this component is not working, or it's not going the way it should, I just Google it and I look for solution. So they help me temporarily, but yeah, in the longer run, I'm not able to learn
They
what
will
it is
not.
about.
They will not. Because see, today you got a problem you saw from Google. Tomorrow you get another problem. Suppose you don't see it in Google. What will you do? You're gone. Whereas if you know that in and out about that component, you read the data sheet of that component, nobody on this planet can stop you from making it work unless there's a manufacturing defect in the problem, so in the component. Okay. So you should know in and out is what I feel.
Any more questions in the audience? If
I
anybody
would
wants
love to hear anybody else. OSS is the only guy here. I see so many people. Any feedback? Any specific questions?
Sir, this is
Was it useful? Was it not useful?
Yeah, it has been very good. It has been very good.
Who is talking?
Yeah. So I thought of asking this question: how to get into your company as an intern, but you have already answered.
Is it Vikram Bhaiya speaking? I am not.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, knowledge is very, very important, Vikram sir. As you know, you yourself, you are really, really good in your subject. I think you are a motivation to so many people, including me. By the way, just wanted to tell Vikram Bhaiya was one of my teaching assistants at IIT Madras, and I respect him from the bottom of my heart for whatever he has taught me. Any questions?
good afternoon, sir. This is Jody Kumar from Computer Science Department.
Your voice is not audible, please. Can you get your microphone closer?
Sir, this is Jody Kumar from Computer Science Department, sir.
Okay. Yes, please.
Sir, let us consider we are doing a startup and we have launched a product successfully. So, is there any constraint to add many more products into the same organization? New products.
So you mean to say you started a company with a product? Can you build more products? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
You can build. Why not?
Okay.
What constraint do you think you have? May I please listen from you?
No. Actually, we may be getting the approvals or something specific to the product, so which undergoes so many steps. So, if you are adding a new product into our organization, so is there any constraint or any procedure? That is my question.
Nothing like that, I will say. See, for example, okay, I got your question. Let me tell in a different manner. Suppose, see, mine is a medical device company. Okay. Now, if I want to get into educational sector, okay, the teaching sector, obviously I cannot have a vertical in Statoon Labs which is doing teaching. You got my point, no?
Yes,
okay, I can build another product in the medical space. Okay, at the same time, suppose my company has the license to manufacture, then in that case also, do you have the right to manufacture a consumer product? Do you have the right to manufacture a medical device? Do you have the right to manufacture a satellite? Or do you have a right to manufacture a scooter? Or do you have the right to manufacture a rocket? So these are some of the important aspects which are actually already registered with the government of India. So if you are changing your domain, suppose me from a medical device company, I want to do a automobile company or a space company, in which case I may not be able to do under the same banner with which Statoon Labs has been registered. This is just an example. Whereas if Statoon Labs wants to enter into the field of cardiology, okay, which is a different sector. Right now we are into physiotherapy and rehabilitation. If you want to get into cardiology, yes, we have the right to build devices there. So if you're building devices under the same, I think it's okay. Whereas the second product also has to undergo the same regulatory compliance. However, if you're changing the field completely, then I think there are some problems which you have to actually, I don't know. That is very, very specific. You need to get advisory there. I hope that answered your question, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Very clear.
Any more questions in the audience? Wow, it's 3 already. So time flies, fast when a person is enjoying it. At least I know I did. So I think, sir, do you have something more to share, or we can end this session now?
More to share, as I have spoken to a lot of students. One thing I wanted to share, I just wanted to tell Vikram Bhaiya also. Vikram sir.
Yeah, please tell.
Vikram sir, actually, I wanted to talk about this, Arduino stuff which we were discussing few days back. May I?
Yes, please tell.
It's important actually. Okay. Osed, do I have 3-4 minutes of time?
Yes, sir, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is very, very important aspect, and I want to communicate it to the students and professors. Okay.
Sure.
Hence, with your permission, I'm talking. Okay.
It's all yours.
So, see, one problem I'll tell you, okay, which is a big problem. I think you should keep a note of it. And not many people talk about it. And I had this concern, and hence I was talking to Vikram sir earlier. We thought we'll catch up over weekend, but he's also super busy. I'm also super busy. But anyways, you gave me this platform and honor. I think it's my duty. Without telling that, it feels as if I'm not doing justice. So let me come to the problem now. Now, Arduino is something which many people are aware of. Correct? Was it?
Yep.
Yes. So Arduino is something which even the computer science students are aware of, mechanical, electronics, electrical, maybe civil engineering students are also aware of, because they may be interfacing some sensors quickly.
True.
So I'll tell you the problem here, okay, and how we can get over it. See, Arduino platform is very good platform. Okay, it has the capability to quickly prototype any design that you want. Okay, any functionality that you want. Suppose you want to rotate a motor with a known RPM, with a known speed, and controlled by a sensor. So you can quickly integrate the sensor to the Arduino board. You have the built-in libraries completely ready, and then you give the output to the driver IC, whatever that is, to L293D something is there. So with that you connect to the motor and it will rotate. Okay. So let me tell you the problem. Now I get resumes, okay, from students, from electronics. I'm talking of electronics students. Okay, for computer science, I don't mind. Computer science and electrical engineers, civil, mechanical, it's okay. I'm talking of electronics students. So when we get such people who claim in their resume we have built products, okay, or we have some hands-on experience, what they have done is they have taken an Arduino board, connected one sensor from here, another they bought from Poti, another they bought from something somewhere, and they have put it, and they downloaded some functions, analog in, analog out, so many things are there. I'm not much aware of that. So you do that, your motor is rotating, correct? You got an obstacle sensor, like many students I see in their resumes, they use some obstacle sensor and all. Okay, you ultrasonic sensor is available, right? So you put the hand, it gets a signal, and then from there the motor is driven. Now, they say that they have done this product. Okay. Now, when I ask them questions, how does that sensor work? When I ask them a question, how does the driver IC work? Or when I ask them how a motor works, or worst case, I ask them what is that microcontroller and what is the architecture? How does it work? Unfortunately, I don't. Okay, because they think that integrating thing, rotating a motor or something is a project. No. Even driving a motor requires a lot of know-how. How the driver is working, what are the MOSFETs that are there, what is the current carrying capacity of that, what is the source current, what is the sink current, what is the driving current of the motor, what is the driving voltage, is it a resistive load, inductive load, what is the mechanism by which the sensor is working, what is the physics behind that, what is the interface protocol between the sensor, obstacle detector and the microcontroller that are used, whether it's I2C, SPI, UART, whatever, analog communication. How is the data being acquired? How is the data being analyzed? We can talk for 50 hours, I will say, just on this driver. That kind of subject it is. And then students claim they have made a project. When I ask them simple question, they're not able to answer. So this is a problem with 99% of engineers, the electronics engineers, which I have seen. Out of 100 resumes that I get, 99 are like this. So this is the fact. Whether you are aware of it or not, I think I should tell you, and I told you. Okay. Now, how do you solve this problem? How do you solve this problem? Do only one project. Don't do 5 projects. In your BTech, you do only one project. But that one project, every component that goes into the board, you should be able to answer. Every line, piece of line in that, the firmware, you should be able to tell how it is working.
Hello.
And if you do with platforms like Arduino,
Hello.
what we call it as, it's more of what do you call it? Let me recollect that. It's all hidden from you. Okay, when you're reading an analog signal, ADC in or ADC input, whatever, I don't know, the analog input function is there. So with that one function, you'll be able to read the signal. But when I ask them about the ADC, what is an ADC? How does it work? People don't even know that there is something called a sampling frequency. And if I ask them what happens if I sample at a lesser rate as compared to the Nyquist criterion, they don't know. They don't know. They don't know how the signals overlap, what is the aliasing effect. Real impact, nobody knows. So I think all these things, you do only one project. So my very, very honest suggestion to all the engineers here, do only one project in your BTech. Do it in and out. I'm telling you, no corporate or no startup can reject you. For sure. For sure. There's no doubt about it. If you can keep this one thing in your mind, whatever you read, whatever you study, whatever you do, one small thing, you just drive a motor. But in and out of even every microampere of current that is going in your circuit, once you know that, every line of code and how many milliseconds or microseconds it takes to execute, if you know that in a very, very core manner, no company on this planet can reject you, is what I feel. So this is my honest suggestion, and I wanted to point this out. OSC, the entire team here, I hope I communicated my thing.
Yeah,
very, very important.
Yeah, we will take it to more students.
Please.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for this extra time. I wanted to communicate this.
No, sir, this was gold that you mentioned. Because I also feel the same way. Because when I do my projects, it doesn't feel like I'm doing something. It's like I'm just fabricating. I'm just copying and pasting it somewhere, and it's just happening. Yeah. So it's there like for a temporary. Okay, yeah, the motor is working, or the car is moving. But at the end of the day, I'm not able to know what's happening behind.
Yes, you can see the car moving. But if I ask you, hey, OSS, how is the car moving? You will not be able to tell me.
True. So yeah, this is actually one big problem that's happening around with the projects as well. So people just Google some project and they find that it's fascinating. They'll just copy paste the code. So now even the code is available online in the YouTube links description. Yeah. So you'll just copy and paste it, and you'll just execute it, and it's done.
Yeah. So this has to be slowly removed from the culture of education, is what I will say. I think professors here, I don't know how many professors are attending. My very, very kind and humble request to all of you, sir, is just ensure that these guys are not doing copy paste for some top level stuff. Ask them in and out of what they are doing. I think that will help them also understand that they are not doing it well. So this is my suggestion and request to the professors. You should grill the students very, very hard, very, very hard. Get into the depth of every small project that they do. Ask them how they did it, why they did it. If it is not working, why do they think it's not working? So then only they will be able to do it. Otherwise, they will never be able to. They'll have a certificate at the end of the course, but they will fail in the interviews, unfortunately. And you know the consequence, unemployability.
True, sir. Yeah. Okay, we'll end this wonderful session here. Thank you all for joining in. Special thanks to our speaker for taking out his valuable time and coming to Shraddhan College and guiding students in such an excellent manner. Some gold was shared here, which I cherished a lot. And I am sure it will help me a lot in building my career, building my startup, and eventually building my future. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Also, thanks to Vikram sir for guiding me yesterday and making sure everything runs smoothly. I'm not able to. I did not hear much about sir, but I would love to know more about Vikram sir in the future as well. So thank you all once again for taking out your valuable time and sharing those beautiful insights with us. Thank you, sir. And we end the session here on this beautiful note. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining in.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thanks for this opportunity. I also really cherish this, and I hope I gave some useful message to not just you, but the entire community who is watching me right now. I think I'm live on YouTube right now.
Yep, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, great. I hope all your students have listened to it and they will benefit. That was the main intent of bringing out all the important aspects. Okay, thanks
Yes, sir.
very much, and I should also thank Professor Ilyas and Vikram sir for giving me this opportunity and to talk to students. Really, really honored. Thank you all. Thanks, Oasid. You have conducted it really, really well under the mentorship of Vikram sir. It was very, very organized. I would have loved to speak to more students, but all are sitting with their microphones and cameras off.
Yes, sir.
Their will and wish, not an issue. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed. Huh?
We would love to have you, sir, offline once we start, coming to college again, because I am sure students listening to you and listening to you live in front, talking with you, that will be like some next level of session. I'm sure. Thank you
Sure. Thank
once
you.
again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Huh?
so much.
I am dropping off now. Huh?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
முடிஞ்ச பாருங்க சார். சார் முடிஞ்ச பாருங்க சார்.